Not only for sports car enthusiasts, ordinary people will also notice when we talk about a Lamborghini car. Renowned for its stylish and high-performance car, Lamborghini is one of Italy's most successful car factories. But who would have known that the success story of Lamborghini was motivated by an insult from its rival, Ferrari? In today's video, we will learn about Lamborghini's birth story, which, as mentioned before, came directly from an insult. Born on 28 April 1916 in Renazzo, northern Italy, Ferruccio Lamborghini was raised by his parents in a vineyard. His parents grew grapes to make wine for a living. Growing up after World War I, Ferruccio had to learn how to make quality wine products from his parents. But Ferruccio's heart is in a dilemma. Like other poor Italians at that time, he could either be stuck with traditional employment as a farmer, or stay ahead and take the risk to do factory and industrial work. However, Ferruccio was obsessed with machinery, fast cars, and motorcycles. And instead of learning about the farming machine rather than the farming itself, he decided to pursue his passion, which disappointed his parents. Ferruccio began to study mechanics at Fratelli Italia Technical Institute and trained with the master blacksmith. In 1935, he felt confident enough to open his workshop with his longtime friend Marino Filippini back in his hometown, Renazzo. 5 years later, Ferruccio was torn from his civilian life when the Second World War hit. He was drafted by the Royal Italian Air Force as a mechanic and assigned to work at the garrison in Rhode Island, Greece. In his duties, Ferruccio took the skills he learned from his engineering studies and gained experience in scrapping and repurposing old machinery. He was known as the wizard at mechanical improvisation and fixing engines. 3 years later, in 1943, Italy surrendered, and Germany took over the garrison in Rhode Island and evicted the Italians. Ferruccio decided to stay as a civilian and asked permission to open his workshop there. No luck to Ferruccio. 2 years later, in 1945, the Allied forces led by the British Army took over and held prisoner everyone in the garrison, no exception for Ferruccio. But after discovering Ferruccio's aptitude, they asked him to fix their vehicles, and 1 year later, the Allied forces allowed Ferruccio to go home to Italy. After going back to Italy, a misfortune struck. His wife, Clelia, passed away while giving birth to their only son, Tonino Lamborghini. In grief, Ferruccio kept himself busy at his workshop, where he mostly fixed pre-war vehicles and tractors. Then, his father made a sudden request that would forever change Ferruccio's life. "I need a new tractor," said his father. At the sudden yet urgent request from his father, Ferruccio realized that Italy needed to increase its agricultural production to recover after losing the war. Having quite an experience from the war working with Allied and Axis war vehicles, Ferruccio decided to bring the stockpiles of military equipment Mussolini's government had commissioned. He used this leftover military equipment to make new tractors. Built with the old British Morris engine, the tractors were modified to run on cheaper gasoline, diesel, rather than the expensive petrol. With the brilliant idea, Ferruccio started his company, Lamborghini Trattori, an Italian word for tractor, in 1947. With only 3 other mechanics and £2,000 as initial capital, Ferruccio took the large-scale production of tractors into his own hands. A few years later, the demand for his affordable tractors is increasing. He and his father took a risk by having a £10,000 bank loan and using their farm as collateral. They used the money to buy hundreds of Morris, Perkins, and Dodge's engines from ARAR, Azienda Rilievo Alienazione Residuati. ARAR is a government-owned company responsible for selling all the excess military equipment left after the war. In the beginning, Lamborghini Trattori was only building, on average, 1 tractor a month. Soon after, Ferruccio's groundbreaking tractor became one of its most prominent manufacturers in Italy, with an average production of 200 tractors per year. After signing a deal with Motorenwerken Mannheim for the diesel engines, Ferruccio's company can now produce its tractor. In 1960, his company became highly successful, and Ferruccio expanded it to manufacturing oil-burning heaters and air conditioning. During the year, Lamborghini had 400 employees and was able to manufacture 30 tractors per day. After becoming very successful, he purchased some of the most excellent luxury sports cars at the time: 2 Maseratis, a Jaguar, a Mercedes-Benz, and several Ferraris. But growing up as a mechanic wizard, Ferruccio was never content with the cars he purchased. With his excellent engineering mind, he was constantly searching for the perfect vehicle. The Ferraris especially appealed to Ferruccio at first. He even purchased the Ferrari 250 GT, which began the feud between Italy's 2 most excellent sports car manufacturers. As he critiqued the other sports car manufacturers, he became disappointed with his Ferrari 250 GT. At one point, he said Ferrari is a good car but also needlessly noisy, and repurposed track cars with poorly built interiors. Another reason Ferruccio was unhappy with his Ferrari 250 GT because the clutch constantly broke down. Frustrated after a few times repairing the grip at the Ferrari's company and the expensive bill as well, Ferruccio ordered one of his mechanics to repair the car. Shockingly, he discovered that the constantly broke-down clutch was the same clutch used in his tractors. This made him furious, as he paid £1,000 every time he fixed the clutch, while the same part he used for the tractors only came at £10. To express his frustration and displeasure, Ferruccio went to Modena, where he confronted Enzo Ferrari. This is where the insult happened. No one knew what happened back then, but some sources said Enzo Ferrari brushed Ferruccio off by saying, "You are only a tractor driver, a farmer. You shouldn't complain about my car. They're the best in the world." Another source said Enzo Ferrari told Ferruccio, "You may be able to drive a tractor, but you will never be able to handle Ferrari." Enzo Ferrari was known for his strong personality and controversial management style. He once fired 5 of the company's critical figures after they expressed their disappointment with Ferrari's wife that intervened in the factory's production. Coming back to Ferruccio, the insult made him furious and painful. He is also an engineer, once called a wizard, and his tractors are the best in Italy. How come his ideas get rejected in the worst possible way? Although he was furious, Ferruccio responded to Ferrari's insult. "Yes, I am a farmer, but I will show you how a sports car would be," and took the challenge. That day, Ferruccio went home with a fateful decision. He would also make sports cars, cars that would be better and faster than Ferrari. Less than a year later, with the help of former vital figures from the Ferrari company, Ferruccio completed his first sports car under Automobili Lamborghini. He created his first sports car in a small town between Modena and Bologna, Sant'Agata Bolognese. The location is perfect for Ferruccio because it has plenty of space to grow and is just a short distance from his heater and air conditioning factory. And it was also in the middle of Terra di Motori, known as the engine factory, which was the home factories of Maserati, Ducati, and Ferrari. The Lamborghini 350 GT car was later unveiled at Turin Motor Show. With a V12 engine, 5-speed transmission, 4-wheel disc brakes, and 4-wheel independent suspension, the vehicle was praised by customers and critics and called a technical masterpiece. Ferruccio used his astrological sign, Taurus, the bull, as the emblem. This is the beginning of the saying, the feud between the prancing horse versus the raging bull. After all, Ferruccio proves to Enzo Ferrari that he isn't just a farmer, but a wizard. This mechanical genius can build superior cars. Over the years after, Lamborghini brought the 400 GT and Miura P400. The Miura project was notable for establishing the rear mid-engine layout as the standard for all high-performance cars of the era until today. Miura P400 was a secret project at first. It was developed as a street race car and kept secret because Ferruccio was against building race cars. Ferruccio had an accident a few years earlier when he entered the prestigious endurance race, the Mille Miglia. He drove his Fiat Topolino but crashed into a side of a restaurant. By this accident, he gave up racing for the rest of his life and forbade the company from building race cars. Despite his disagreement, Ferruccio decided not to scrap the idea. It turns out to be one of his best decisions ever. The Miura P400 became known as the world's first supercar, a sports car and a supercar. As the company's success continued to streak, they built other models such as Espada, Islero 400 GT, Countach LP 500, Huracan P250, and Jarama 400 GTS. However, in 1970, Lamborghini had to face serious difficulties. First, the oil crisis came because of OPEC's oil embargo, which significantly increased oil prices. At the same time as the global market dramatic crash, and Dow erased almost half of its value. Another lousy luck emerges. The Lamborghini Trattore was also hurt when the 1971 coup led by Hugo Banzer canceled the deal to support 5,000 tractors to Bolivia. Ferruccio tried to keep his factories alive but had to sell the company's stock. So he decided to retire in his mansion on Lake Trasimeno in Perugia. In his retirement days, he started to make a small production of wine, and hereafter built a hotel with a restaurant and a golf course called Tenuto Lamborghini, which still exists today. After Ferruccio's retirement, Automobili Lamborghini changed ownership several times and once went bankrupt. Lamborghini's supercars emerged again after being owned by the influential Audi AG. In the hands of Audi, Lamborghini built several famed cars named Lamborghini Gallardo, Murcielago, Aventador, Huracan, and Ursus. And, just like Ferruccio's strong determination to bring the result after Enzo Ferrari's insult, the bull is still raging against the prancing horse until now. Have you ever get insulted by others? What did you do with that? Feeling rejected, furious, or irritated after getting humiliated is standard. But Ferruccio Lamborghini's story will motivate you to bring a good result after the insult. Share your story in the comment section and remember to press like and subscribe.